Nobody posts about this on social media. Nobody brags about it at dinner. The habits that quietly build six-figure net worths are so invisible that most people skip right past them, looking for something to get their blood pumping. This diagram shows the kind of financial noise you see every day. Day trading tutorials, crypto alerts, side hustle blueprints promising thousands of dollars a month. They sound like the fast track to financial freedom. But for most people who try to ride those spikes, the reality looks like this. The numbers drop below the baseline, and those exciting strategies end up costing them the exact money they were trying to grow. This diagram shows a different approach. It is a simple setup, an automatic transfer from your checking account to a separate savings account. Even $25 every paycheck works as a starting point. Automation bypasses the psychological friction of choice. The moment saving money requires a decision, many people end up spending that money instead. When the transfer happens on its own, the money moves before you even notice it is gone. There is no thrill to this, but a few months in, you check that balance and realize you have accumulated more cash than you ever managed to hold on to before. You barely felt it happening. That is how many people build their first real financial cushion. It relies on automated invisibility rather than conscious effort or constant excitement. Meanwhile, the people steadily building real wealth are doing the most unremarkable things imaginable. They automate a transfer every payday. They keep their everyday spending under control. They cook dinner at home on a Tuesday night instead of ordering out. It stings when you look around and it feels like everyone else found a shortcut. You hear about a friend making a brilliant investment or using some secret strategy, and you feel like you are falling behind. But those loud behaviors are often designed to make someone look wealthy online. The people actually getting ahead financially stay quiet about it because what they do is too boring to go viral. Net worth grows in silence. This chart shows what my 20s looked like. I chased every exciting money strategy I could find. I tried trading options, which involve betting on the future price of a stock without owning it. I bounced from one financial app to another looking for an edge. A couple of those moves made a little cash, but the constant hunting for an advantage cost me far more than I ever earned. Chasing individual, exciting financial plays usually results in net losses. I finally gave up on the complex strategies out of sheer exhaustion. I started doing the boring stuff, the simple habits I had ignored because they felt too basic to actually matter. Wealth generation relies on repeating unglamorous actions month after month. It functions independently of singular market timing or the pursuit of a hot investment. This diagram shows what happens when you let those actions compound. By sheer repetition of basic habits, the math quietly tilts in your favor. The growth becomes steady, relying on time rather than luck. Exciting strategies demand that you are right at the exact right moment. If your timing is off, you lose. Boring habits just require you to keep showing up, letting the timeline do the work in the background. Over a long enough horizon, behavioral consistency mathematically outperforms timing and precision for regular individuals. Every habit that actually builds wealth shares the same DNA. They are small, they are automatic, they are repeatable, and they involve virtually no risk. Now, saving $25 here and there is not going to generate a six-figure net worth. The math on a single tiny habit does not add up to massive wealth on its own. This maps the behavioral chain reaction. Automatic saving lowers your checking balance, forcing intentional spending. This creates a financial surplus that flows into consistent investing. The engine of growth is repeating that investing habit. You don't need the perfect stock, you just keep showing up. True wealth is an architecture constructed by stacking one unremarkable behavior on top of another. Once you build a self-sustaining system like this, the flashy alternatives stop looking so appealing. It seems like it should not work this way. The person who researches stocks for hours, studies charts, and hunts for undervalued companies should end up ahead of someone who sets up a simple system and walks away, right? Here is what often happens instead. The exciting approach requires correct decisions under pressure. You must pick the right investment, buy at the right moment, and sell at the right moment, then do it again and again. The more decisions involved, the more chances you have to trip yourself up. One bad call can erase months of progress. Statistically, multiplying the number of required choices directly increases the probability of a mistake. Even professionals, with all their resources, get many of those calls wrong. For most people, the high-effort path isn't a shortcut to wealth. It's a high-stakes race to see if you can outrun your own inevitable errors. The boring approach works differently. It removes those decision points. By automating the process, you've also removed many chances to make a costly mistake. You put the same amount into a diversified investment on a regular schedule. A diversified investment is a single fund that holds hundreds or thousands of different stocks, spreading your risk across the entire market. You don't pick winners and you don't try to time anything. Think of it like brushing your teeth. Nobody gets excited about it. You just do it every single day without thinking. That tiny, unremarkable habit protects you from problems that would be far more expensive and painful later. Boring financial habits function the same way. Success here doesn't come from a brilliant tactical move. It comes from eliminating the friction points where people usually quit. The math behind this consistency is not a straight line. It compounds. Take a rough example. You put $200 a month into a diversified investment. In the first year, nearly all of your balance is just what you contributed. The growth may be barely noticeable. After several years, growth starts to pick up, but your monthly contributions are still doing the heavy lifting. After a long stretch, the growth begins to rival or exceed what you put in. The previous gains now generate their own returns. Compounding is the primary driver of this growth, but it requires one specific condition to activate: time. There is a catch. Compounding only works if you do not keep interrupting it. The moment you pull the money out, skip too many contributions, or abandon the strategy because something shinier came along, you stop the process that time was building. This is why exciting strategies are so risky. They demand constant attention and create stress. Eventually, that stress leads to burnout. People get tired of making decisions. They react emotionally to market dips, and they quit. Boring habits survive because they take far less effort to maintain. By giving yourself less room to react, you ensure you stay in the game long enough for the math to work. Many people believe that building wealth requires outsmarting everyone else, having better information, or finding an angle others missed. In reality, wealth builds for the people who do unremarkable things long enough for the math to start doing the heavy lifting. This is the logic behind the idea that time in the market matters more than timing the market. It applies to saving, spending habits, and every boring financial routine you build. The longer you stay consistent, the more the results compound. Now, understanding the math is one thing, but to see how this works in practice, we have to look at the common errors that pull people away from these habits. You likely understand the math. A steady, predictable investment plan executed over decades produces reliable wealth. However, the intellectual grasp of a long-term strategy is often undermined by the emotional discipline required to actually maintain it. Many people commit to a simple plan, only to find the growth barely measurable. This perceived insignificance triggers a search for faster, exciting assets, causing them to abandon a sound strategy right as it begins to take hold. This chart clarifies the disconnect. While the top line representing your visible account balance remains relatively flat, the exponentially curving metric beneath the surface shows the actual mathematical momentum building within the account. We can view this as a sapling. The tiny green shoot above the soil is the only part you see, but the expanding complex root system beneath is the structural foundation that compounding requires before it can produce visible yields. Moving capital to chase a trending stock results in severing those roots. The timeline resets to day zero, forcing you to give up your accumulated structural momentum and begin the heavy lifting of compounding all over again. Lacking the emotional tolerance for invisible progress is the single most common reason early wealth strategies fail. Modern technology allows us to check our net worth at any moment. This constant access creates a false, ongoing mandate for action, making us feel that our money requires daily intervention to be successful. When the market experiences its inevitable dips, this pressure triggers an emotional flinch. This is the psychological compulsion to sell or shift assets into perceived safe harbors until the volatility subsides. This step chart illustrates the damage of that flinch. By moving investments into cash during these localized troughs, an investor locks in a permanent deficit, transforming a temporary paper dip into a realized capital loss. Compare that to the passive investor's timeline. By leaving long-term capital alone, they capture the full, uninterrupted growth curve, resulting in a significantly higher final yield than the reactionary seller. Frequent monitoring artificially manufactures the anxiety necessary to destroy compounding consistency without ever accelerating growth. Most people treat unexpected income, like tax refunds or work bonuses, strictly as discretionary spending money. The default reflex is to focus on immediate consumption rather than capital growth. Reframing a windfall as mathematical fuel by injecting a block of capital into a baseline trajectory visibly steepens the future curve. To maximize velocity, direct windfalls toward automated savings, core investments, or debt reduction. Establishing capitalization as your automatic default behavior allows you to prioritize your future while still maintaining room for discretionary spending as the exception. Leveraging unexpected income is the most mathematically efficient way to artificially shorten the duration of a long-term wealth strategy. Social media creates an artificial benchmark for financial success. Seeing a pure post about a major purchase or a net worth milestone can make your own steady, automated progress feel laughable by comparison. This creates a dangerous state of asymmetric information, where one party has more or better information than the other. You are measuring your complete, unvarnished reality against the heavily filtered, positive-only highlights of others. This radar chart breaks down the structural reality of those milestones. While a peer may show a massive spike in a visible asset, they often have hidden, deep spikes in high-interest consumer debt or family aid that negate their actual net worth. Comparing your study strategy to a curated highlight reel creates unwarranted self-doubt. This doubt is the primary driver for people abandoning strategies that are genuinely working for them. True financial progress must be measured solely against your own baseline and debt ratios, ignoring the unverified external optics of others. Waiting for a market dip or a personal raise before starting to save feels like responsible planning. In reality, this hesitation functions as a destructive delay that compromises long-term growth. The mathematical cost of delay is unrecoverable. This chart shows an investor delaying 6 months faces a severe deficit in final value. A boring strategy is condition agnostic. While the market moves in a chaotic sine wave, its vector remains straight, cutting through volatility. You can neutralize these 5 emotional mistakes by moving from manual discipline to an automated system. When your financial system runs on autopilot, executing consistently on its own power, you remove the human error that destroys wealth. Wealth is built through simple, boring habits that exist in the present and run purely on autopilot. Most online financial advice suggests building wealth requires timing the market perfectly, finding a hidden crypto gem, and riding a constant wave of adrenaline. But chasing those exciting moves usually just burns people out. Getting to a 6-figure net worth rarely comes from a viral success story. It comes from a sequence of incredibly dull, highly predictable, automated actions. You probably already know the basic mistakes to avoid, like spending more than you earn or carrying high-interest debt. But knowing what not to do is merely the baseline. Growing your money requires locking yourself into a strict mechanical routine. Removing yourself from the process allows compound growth to do the heavy lifting. Replacing active daily financial decisions with a passive, automated system forces the math to work in your favor. The very first step is to automate your investing. You open an investment account and select a broad market index fund. An index fund is a basket of investments that slices up your money across hundreds of companies. But picking the fund is useless if you do not fund it continuously. You have to set up a recurring automatic cash transfer, even if it is just $50 to start. Setting a schedule that mechanically feeds money into your investments guarantees it happens without you making a fresh choice. Step 2 is creating a boring money day. Pick exactly one day a month, maybe the first Saturday or the last Sunday, and spend 10 to 15 minutes reviewing your accounts. You are checking balances and confirming that your automatic transfers actually ran. That is it. You are not running deep analysis or reacting to what the stock market did that week. It is a calm, purely observational check-in. Step 3 protects the money you have left. Implement a 48-hour waiting rule for any non-essential purchase over $100. If you still want the item after 2 days, you buy it. If you forget about it, the money stays in your account. This works because it acts as a built-in delay rather than a strict denial, easily filtering out impulse buys without making you feel deprived. Together, these 3 steps form a highly efficient pipeline. You are automatically diverting cash to growth with zero friction, while intentionally adding friction to unnecessary spending. Now we move to step 4, the quarterly subscription and bill audit. Every few months, you need to sit down for 20 minutes and actively hunt for hidden cash flow leaks in your accounts. Go line by line through your bank and credit card statements. Look for services you stopped using or bills that quietly crept higher, and ruthlessly cancel or renegotiate all of them. Step 5 focuses on your safety net. You need to look at exactly where your emergency fund is currently stored, because if it is sitting in a standard bank account, it is likely underperforming. This chart shows the difference in yield over time between a standard savings account and a high-yield savings account, or HYSA. Notice the flat, stagnant line for the traditional account compared to the climbing bar of the HYSA. Both accounts do the exact same job of holding your cash, but one pays you significantly more for the privilege. Exact rates and access rules vary depending on the institution, but the primary goal is ensuring your emergency cash remains fully accessible while still earning a reasonable return on your idle money. By plugging the monthly leaks in your budget and optimizing your cash reserves, you free up much more capital to firmly feed the automated investment engine we built in the first step. Step 6 is where you scale. You set up a single annual trigger, like a calendar reminder every January or right after you get a raise at work, to slightly increase your automatic investment contribution. This line graph displays 2 diverging growth curves over 30 years. The bottom line is the baseline curve for someone who keeps their contributions flat. The dramatically steeper, rising curve shows what happens when you make those tiny, almost unfelt annual increases. Mathematically, those small bumps alter the entire final trajectory of your portfolio. Step 7 gives you the feedback to keep going. During your monthly boring money day, you calculate your net worth. You do this by explicitly taking the total value of what you own and subtracting what you owe. The resulting number is your net worth. Tracking this specific number month after month provides a powerful psychological feedback loop. It takes the slow, invisible process of paying down debt and buying index funds and turns it into a highly visible, tangible milestone. These scaling mechanisms ensure your financial plan never stagnates. They upgrade a basic savings habit into an accelerating wealth-building machine. If you execute these steps exactly as laid out, you will not see dramatic results tomorrow. You will not have a massive windfall next month. But project this system 5 years into the future, a massive gap opens up between the person quietly executing these boring habits and the person constantly chasing the next exciting financial strategy. The boring path steadily accumulates real wealth. The exciting path usually just accumulates stress. If you know someone who keeps jumping from one financial fad to the next, share this video with them. Hit the like button and let me know your best boring money habit in the comments below. Building a 6-figure net worth is a byproduct.